All right, stick around to the end of the video and I will tell you my vending rookie mistake that was huge and cost me quite a bit. So stick around to the end of the video and I'll tell you that story. Good day, Sir Blasphemy here for Sir Blasphemy's Travels. Hope you guys are doing well out there and hope everything's going good as fair season is well underway. And I am on a hiatus and building a little small business that I have where I live. But I'll be back on the road again at the end of the year for TRF once again. And I just wanted to take some time right now to kind of talk about some of the things. I've made other videos and you can check them out. I'll post the link above here, but where I've talked about, here's what you do or what to expect at Renaissance fairs, and I've gotten some wonderful feedback, some good comments in the comment section, so please continue to do this, and for this video especially. And I kind of thought, what are some of the things that you should not do at a Renaissance fair, like some no-nos, like don't do this if you're a vendor or a worker, don't do it. Some of these things are self-explanatory, but yet people still continue to do them. And so we're going to kind of run through a brief list. I have a little list here of some things, and we'll go through it. But, I think the first thing to keep in mind, if you're going to do a Renaissance fair, remember, you're going to be on the road away from your family months at a time, or your family and yourself are going to be on the road, and you have to accommodate for those things. It's not an easy job to do, but it is a fun job to do for sure, and you get to see a lot of things that a lot of people don't get to do. So that would be my first thing. Don't do a fair if you're not ready for the travel, the very hard work involved in doing it, the setting up, the tearing down, the process, the hiring, all of that. So, that would be my first thing. But let's go into a little bit of what you don't want to do at a Renaissance fair. So one of the first things, and it goes without saying, do not piss off the management of the fair, because essentially they control your fate. Being at a fair, most fairs are quite lucrative if you have a good product, right? And so the last thing you want to do is to, get in disagreements with the fair or do things that will anger the fair. I've heard stories about, some of the fair management walking up to people, the vendors or workers, and going, hey, you're not wearing this, or you're not, you guys we're getting reports that you're saying nasty things to some of the crowd, because people at fairs tend to think anything goes, and that's just not true. And so you want to make sure that you pay them on time, you get your contract signed, you set up where they tell you to set up, and you follow, basically the rules of the fair. It's just like any other job. You go into a job, you go by their policies. The fairs are the same way. A lot of people think at these fairs, some vendors, not all, definitely not all, very, very small percentage, think that they go in there and it's like, well, once I'm here, this is my business, I can do what I want with it. And that's just not true. And so don't piss off the fair management, and a lot of the things I'm going to talk about would qualify as doing that. But and so building on another point on that, do not treat the fair like your personal party space. I see it over and over and over again. If you are a worker at the fair or if you're a vendor, I've seen it over and over again where people get there and they go, okay, this is a fair, it's a festival. And we can drink, we can do these things while we're there, or we can have during the off week, even when the fair isn't going, we can have loud parties and be noisy and be, have a free for all. And you can't do that. It's a one-way ticket to get thrown out of that fair fast. There was a story about it. This was at, I won't mention the fair actually, but this was at one of the fairs that I did, about where a vendor, the guy who owns his booth, and his worker got drunk and they couldn't hardly, sell their stuff, what they're there to do. And you have to ask yourself, would you do that at your job? Would you go get drunk at your job and carry on with your coworkers and stuff like that? Would you, as a manager, get your employees drunk. You wouldn't do it at a 9 to 5 job in an office somewhere. Don't do it at a fair. Don't do it. And trust me, it's out there. There's videos where I've gotten a free drink, before, the day starts, and I'm making a laugh about it. But the thing is it's going to happen. You're going to be offered from time to time, even on the work days, some booze. Restrict yourself. If you got to have a sip just to be cordial with somebody, have a sip, but go do your job. Go do what you're supposed to do. Do not go there to drink and do drugs and treat it like a party while you're working, because it's just not. Make no mistake, it is a fun job, and it is very much like a party festival atmosphere all the time. It is a pleasure, but do it with your sober mind. Increase your bottom line, increase your profit margin is what I'm trying to say, and do your job. And then at the end of the night, go sit with the fair workers and have a cold one. That's the time to go do those things. So it's just something to keep in mind. I know it sounds simple, but people do it all the time and they get thrown out of fairs. Let me see here. So don't hire bad people. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, it happens all the time. I've done it. I have a story about that. I'll tell you here at the end of the video, but vet your people. Take the time to make the calls, check their work history, make them fill out their W-2s, and vet them. Talk to people. And in a minute, I'm going to tell you my story, and I vetted this person, but go through the steps. Don't go lazy about it. Because I can tell you right now, time and time again at a fair, because most booth owners at a fair have to leave and go do something else, and they leave it in the hands of the worker. I've seen an alcoholic worker running a wand stand that, from a wonderful booth owner. The guy's fantastic, but the guy wouldn't go out and engage people. I mean, his profits dropped. I think he said something like 60% after he left. That's horrific. And this guy was drunk. He had, when the booth owner came back, there was bottles of liquor and stuff stashed inside the booth, and the guy just wasn't doing his job. You want a worker that goes out and engages with a clear mind, whether they're young or old. You want them out there constantly engaging people. You have to do that. Hawking is essential in doing Renaissance fairs. You have to call people over. People think, if they want something, they'll come up. No, it doesn't work like that. I can't think. I've made thousands of dollars by just simply shouting out my product to people walking by, and then them turn around and go, oh, I didn't know you were here. And then next thing you know, I'm selling stuff. You need employees that do that. You need clean employees, people that treat your booth with respect, that they don't stack up boxes and they don't leave food hanging out, and they don't, trash the booth. They don't just close it up and leave, or even worse, they don't steal from the till, because it's easy to do out there. It's easy to do, and there's luckily POS software is getting more sophisticated where it can catch people, doing that. And I recommend, if you can, just invest a little bit, because it's worth it to you. It's worth it to your business to get a small security camera and make your employees known about it. And then that must always be on. And the moment that thing goes off, you get all over your employees, and make sure that stays constant. And I always try to keep one over my cash drawer. That's where I keep it. I want to know what my employees doing out there. I want to know if they're trying. They're not just hiding out in the booth, and somebody walks up and they're annoyed by it. They're just getting a check and they're annoyed by the fact that, they're disturbing me. So you have to think about those things, because it happens all the time. I hear stories all the time about, this guy kept drinking and he wouldn't, I found out that he wasn't engaging people, and he was just kind of hanging out with his friends inside the booth and treating it like a little party zone and a hangout instead of actual work. And even when you vet people and they come good recommended, it doesn't always work out, which I'll tell you about. Let's see. So we've got, so the next thing, so vet your people, sorry. But the next thing I would have to add is never discourage patrons from buying from other vendors, even if you have like or similar products. The reason for that is because you work in a community with those other vendors, and word will get out. If you're over there going, they have terrible stuff. It's just trinkets, those are crap. A lot of people spend a lot of time hand making these things. That's the artisan fair aspect. People spend thousands of hours, and the last thing they need is another booth owner or an employee of a booth owner trashing their products. Because I can tell you right now, you will get alienated quick. And you don't want that. You don't want it, because I make a lot of money off of recommending people go get something from somewhere else. I sell a chocolate product. Well, there's hundreds of chocolate products at these fairs, and I recommend, go try this. And they do, and then what ends up happening is those people then recommend them, other people to come see you. Oh, we don't carry this chocolate product, but he does. Go see him. If you're working to trash them, trying to get a sale, you will not get any help from those vendors, and they will alienate you, and you will be on your own. And you don't want that at a Renaissance festival. You don't want it. It is a no-no. Always talk up your other vendors and help them, because trust me, I make thousands and thousands of dollars off of them just recommending me, or even other booth owners coming to see me and buying product from me just because I sent customers that way. I have a great working relationship at my fairs with the other vendors, and we make a lot of money off of each other. So be cooperative, be a family aspect in that sense of community with that, and it won't treat you wrong. So yeah, don't do those things. Do not discourage patrons from buying from other vendors. So that's what I tell you. Yeah, this is a simple one. Find ways to hide your cell phone. So the fair will get onto you if you're standing there, or your workers are standing there and they're flipping through their phone right in front of it, right? We're supposed to hide the technology a little bit. Yes, it's not a perfect system out there. You got to have POS and stuff like that, but the fair doesn't want to see their workers or their vendors standing there on their phone all day. Not only are you missing sales, but you're not paying attention to what's going on around you. And so what a lot of people do when they need to look at their phones or they need to do something, there's hollow books you can buy that look Renaissance-y. You open it up, you put your cell phone in, and when you open it, you can access your cell phone and do that, and it looks like you're, a Renaissance guy reading a book. Everybody knows you're in there on your cell phone, but you're not showing it. So be mindful of that. Cell phones are I always hear people getting chirped at all the time. I got chirped at for it once, and which was fine. I had my cell phone out, and I wasn't thinking. I was checking football scores, and it just was a momentary lapse. I wasn't doing it inside my booth, and just so happened one of the management walked by and said, "Hey, you need to put that up." Also, on top of this, don't wear sunglasses. I have which you'll see my videos and be like, dude, you wear sunglasses all the time. I actually have a light sensitivity issue. I've had it since I was about 15. And so I can't see direct sunlight very well. It's very painful for me. So you have to get that approved through the fair to wear sunglasses. But if they catch you doing that, they're going to get on you, because you can get away with it once or twice, and then after that, you stand a chance of getting kicked out just for simply wearing sunglasses. So just pay attention to those things. Upkeep your booth. Upkeep your booth. Keep it clean, just like you would anywhere else. Not only do patrons, we understand that it's a Renaissance fair, it's going to get dusty and all that over the course of the day. It's going to rain, it's going to get a little muddy around you. That's fine. People expect that. But once the day's over, clean it up. Wipe down your POS system, your tables, your stuff, at least 2 or 3 times a day. I do, to keep a clean, and a clean presentation to the people. The fair does not want to see you, with filth. They don't want to see food stacked up. They don't want to see, just your booth in disarray. They don't want to see that. So it's just keep a tidy booth. That is one of the big things, and it'll go a long way for you, and you'll be looked on positively from the fair owners and the management. Let's see. So this goes along the line of hawking. Don't stand and wait for business to come to you. If you do that, you won't last long. I have yelled so much over the course of a day that I actually spit out blood a couple of times, and I lost my voice. That's what it takes. That's the hustle. That's hawking. You must get this ingrained right now. Do not think this isn't a flea market where you're just standing there and people are going to come up, or a garage sale and they're going to look at stuff. You have to shout out to the masses all day long, all the time. If you are a worker working for somebody, a booth owner, you must do this. If you are not comfortable doing this, don't take the job. Take a different job there where you're not having to shout out at people, because it is essential that you do this. It brings in so much business. It brings in so much. And so, do not stand around and wait for business to come to you. Those are some of the no-nos. You just can't do it. So just keep that in mind. This is some of the basics, what I encourage you guys to do. And maybe as I'm, closing this out, and I'm going to tell you my story here about my no-no, remember things like, most Renaissance fairs, you got to wear a hat unless your garb can kind of accommodate the fact that you're not wearing one. I don't wear one always at fairs, but they don't get onto me too much because my garb is pretty eloquent. So they like the presentation, so they let me get away with not wearing a hat. So things like that. You do have to wear a hat, so unless your garb can accommodate, talk with the management there and find out stuff like that. But there's so many things I'm forgetting. You guys, please put it in the comment section. I just wanted to give you nuts and bolts for people that are kind of new to this, or maybe don't know much about it and don't know what to expect and don't want to step on any toes. And let me tell you, there's a million other things I can tell you. I could take up hours on this about what not to do at a fair. But going back to my point, so I promised you a story and you're going to want to hear this. I hired a guy. It was my first year doing fairs. I hired a guy. He came well recommended. He was a bit of a talker, well, kind of like myself, so I respected that. He was overly talkative, but he was a good seller, definitely, but he came well. I vetted him. I made the calls. I talked to people, and they were like, yeah, he talks a lot, kind of holds up sales sometimes, but he's a good seller, and he moves and he does what, he needs to do. So I said, okay. I had something going on to where I could only be at this fair for a couple of weeks in the beginning and then come back at the end. And so I trained him there. I got him familiarized with the product, and I left. I told him what to do, what you need to get done. So I noticed immediately, this was the first thing that I noticed. I noticed this drop off in my sales. And I the first weekend that I left him alone, and I was like, well, that might happen. It may have been a slow weekend. And then I noticed that the sales prices always stayed around the same, like he was hitting a mark and stopping. It was always around the same numbers. It was always the same each weekend. And I was doing astronomically better. And when I was there, and then all of a sudden I see this drop off and the numbers stayed the same. That's highly unusual. And it happens, but it's unusual. And so I was getting suspicious, and he would claim, the system is down. The system is down. It was constantly going down for him, but it was a rarity that my system goes down still to this day doing fairs. And I was going, why are they having so much trouble, with the system? And so when I returned a couple of weeks later to close out the last 2 weeks with him, I returned to a horror show. I literally walked in the back door to my booth, and I opened it up, and there were stacked pizza boxes, stacked with food in it, rat droppings, all kinds of stuff behind my main table where I was selling food. I was horrified, and I contacted him and said, hey man, it looked like he was living in my booth. And I knew that this stuff had been sitting there on sale days because it was aged, it was stacked, it was there. And I was like, what in the hell? And my booth was in complete disarray. It was filthy. Nothing had been cleaned. Not only that, he was in charge as my booth manager of taking my deposits down. He had my deposits in a bank bag sitting out in the open on top of a cooler sitting there. But that's not the worst part. So I get his butt into the store, and I tell him, I go, you need to clean this, man. And he's still standing around talking, and I'm going, hey man, you need to clean this. Finally, he hustles around, starts taking his pizza boxes off, starts sweeping out the booth. And I tell him, you need to be cleaning all of this, man. This is ridiculous. And he's kind of being a smart aleck with me about it. And I was going to can his ass, for sure. And then I started getting into my till. And I started realizing that he was going into my till on cash sales. And he would go up to the point to get change, but he wouldn't register the sale. and he did it hundreds and hundreds of times. So he was getting cash money from people and he was putting it in his pocket. I wondered why when I was paying him his checks, he wasn't depositing them or cashing them. I was like, this guy's like in his tent out there. Doesn't he need money? I mean, he was storing his checks, and I was going, it was because he was taking the money from my till and putting it in his pocket, keeping thousands and thousands of dollars he kept from me. And I'm going to say this guy's name because he probably watches these videos. His name is Jace Rishu. And Jace, if you're watching this, dude, I will do everything I can to make sure that you do not get hired at Renaissance fairs. You've already been blackballed. This guy, I later found out after this that he's been blackballed from the Colorado Renaissance Festival. He's not allowed to work there again for whatever reasons. They didn't elaborate. He's been blackballed from the Scarborough Renaissance Festival in Dallas. He's not allowed to work there. And the Texas Renaissance Festival has blackballed him as of last season. So he's not allowed to work there. So if any of you vendors out there get a guy by the name of Jace Rishu, a very unique name, do not hire this guy. Do not hire him. He's a thief and he's filthy. And if you're not there to watch him, he will take from you and he will destroy your booth. So that's my story, and it was a hard lesson to learn. Now I've taken steps to make sure that I know when somebody's trying to cheat the till in many ways, through security cameras and through the system itself, checking that. So anyway, so there's some of my boo-boos, so to speak, for do not do this stuff at a Renaissance fair. So please, again, comment down below. Let me know what else I forgot. Chime in, add to it so people can read your comments, and maybe tell some of your personal war stories too as well. But anyway, that's it, guys. A quick, simple video. What not to do at a Renaissance festival. Thank you guys for watching. I've got over 200 subscribers now. I'm trying to get to 500. You guys keep going. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching and doing everything. Thank you so much for commenting and liking the videos and sticking your input in. I appreciate it so much. Please continue to do that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tickle that bell for all future notifications. And until next time, Sir Blasphemy out.